Good morning. We're going to continue in Isaiah 43, and I want to pick up in verse 18, go down through verse 21. We're going to spend a couple of days in this text, but let's take one glance at it. Much like prophecy often does, it has a kind of layered approach, the Bob Ross layered approach, where we get into a dynamic where a horizon is painted by the prophet for us, and we think that's the horizon only to find out that there's a deeper horizon that sits behind it. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at this first horizon. Verse 18 of Isaiah 43, remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? So it's something immediate. I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The wild beasts will honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, for I give water in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, to give drink to my chosen people, the people whom I formed for myself, that they might declare my praise. This is a direct reference to the return from exile. Now, this Exodus appeal that I mentioned yesterday, from the first portion of this text, verse 16 through 18, that was the old rescue. The first new rescue is a picture of a greater new rescue. So the first horizon is exile. Now, how do we know it's exile? Well, the language of I will make a way in the wilderness, that sounds a little bit like Exodus, and he's just talked about Exodus. The next phrase, and rivers in the desert, is interesting. Before, he appealed to the Exodus and talked about the parting of waters, who makes a way in the sea, a path in the mighty waters. Here, the path is made across the wilderness. Remember, they got stuck in the wilderness. They wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. They never entered the promised land because they never got out of the wilderness. But here, it's different. Here, the path is through the desert and rivers, or through the wilderness, and the rivers come in the desert. It's a picture of refreshment through an arid landscape. Well, as they would come from exile, they would be coming across the desert. They'd be coming from the northeast, and they'd be moving back to Jerusalem. And it's a picture that God was bringing them back to the promised land, and he was making a way for them out of exile across the desert. And he says, celebrate this new rescue. It's coming. Celebrate it. It's a river in the desert. Well, we're going to talk about tomorrow how this all connects to eternity. For now, I want you to think about this. Your own salvation is a river in the desert. If you look at the landscape of life, of worldviews, of tensions, of strains and stretches and conundrums and all the things that discombobulate you, it's a barren desert. There's not refreshment to be had in those things. But God, in his rescue of the gospel, gives you his Spirit and is a well of water springing up, as he told the woman at the well in John 4, to eternal life. It's refreshing. And that refreshing and sweet stream that he gives you can water your life in the desert. Exile and the rescue from it is a picture of the great eternal salvation to come. Rest in that today and refresh yourself in the waters of God's good gospel. May the Lord encourage you.